Good evening. Good evening, everyone. Yeah.
Good evening, Pastor. How are you?
Good to see you all connecting before time. Thank you so much.
Good evening, Pastor. Praise the Lord. Praise the Lord, all. Good evening.
Good evening. Awesome. All right. So once again, I'm just welcoming the MA in Psychology and Counseling first year students also. They are the regular batch, and along with them, I want to also welcome the ones who have registered for the webinar. So some of the old faces, previous students from the previous batches have joined. So glad to see you. And some of the new faces have also joined. It's such a joy to see all of you. So we'll get started without wasting much time. Uh, as you would know that today we are having a special webinar, and this webinar is about use of artificial intelligence tools in counseling practice, right? So this is our topic. So we will get started. But before we start, let's look to God in prayer as we enter into this time of discussion, reflection, and most importantly, a start of a conversation. That's the most important part, which I would like to do today. As we have assembled here, more than a one-way communication. I just wanted to set up a conversation so that we will be able to think through these lines so that it will be much easier for each one of us, wherever we are placed, to be able to traverse through these times, especially as we see the advent of artificial intelligence, how it impacts or how it can even have a kind of a positive or even a negative impact in terms of we helping each other in terms of counseling, isn't it? So let's look to God in prayer. I would invite all of you for the time of prayer. Let's close our eyes, bow down our heads and hearts to God. Let's pray. Our most holy and gracious our Father in heaven, as we enter into this time of discussion and conversation and learning, Lord, we seek for your guidance, especially not only in this session. I pray for all those who are, Father, coming in and entering into this session. Lord, let your divine hand be with all of them, Father, especially as they are in their respective places, which you have orchestrated for them, Father. Nothing is outside of your domain. We understand that we are under your grace, we are under your will. I pray, Father, that this discussion, this start of a conversation will be helpful for each and every one who are tuned in, who will later also watch this. Father, we pray that whatever we are going to discuss, let it be happening according to thy will, and let it be a useful time, meaningful time, so that when out of the session we will walk out with something that we have to ponder upon, and also something that we will learn in terms of how we can leverage and how we can be ethical and how we can also be mindful of various things that are involved here, so that it will, Lord, bring your kingdom in this world, and let your will be done in each and every one of our lives through this. We commit the rest of the time in your hands. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Okay, thank you so much. And I just wanted to take this moment to welcome all who have joined after we started. All right, so let's, to get started, I believe most of you have seen this topic. Some of the terms that are used in this topic of the webinar may be familiar. You would have heard these terms because these are not something that is new. Because if we are living in this world, we would have heard these terms like artificial intelligence, which has become a new normal today, because everyone in across different age groups are exposed to this technology. And today we see that this technology is just evolving, right? It's not yet there in its fully grown state, but even when it is evolving, even when one aspect of the technology is out there, we see how it has impacted different fields. So today our main focus is not to discuss artificial intelligence in all the fields, right? Because we understand that artificial intelligence is not a technology that is only limited to counseling, or not only limited to psychotherapy. It is involved in various other fields and domains, starting from education, manufacturing, software, whatever you think. We see that artificial intelligence has taken an inroad, and also in terms of marketing, right? But today our main focus is to start a conversation around how the advent of artificial intelligence has impacted, or even affected, or even enhanced the therapeutical practices that we see in counseling, psychology. And some of you would have been aware of the terms like psychology, counseling. If you are not, just to give you a brief definition, psychology is nothing but the study of mind. Yeah. And when it comes to counseling, we are dealing with people who have their minds, right? So it is counseling. Psychology deals with mind, thoughts, emotions, behaviors. And as a counseling psychologist, our main intention anytime would be to help people, right? Help people, because people are having a lot of problems, and they would be going through a lot of situations that would make them come to a point where they would sometimes lose hope. They would be stressful. They would be having a lot of thoughts as well that can lead to even suicide. As counseling psychologist and as a mental health worker, we understand that how important our role is to help out those people who are calling out for help. And sometimes these people are not someone who would reach out to you. If someone reaches out to us, we can definitely help, but we are living in a world where there is a big stigma associated to even seek help, right? How many of you understand that, right? People are going through issues, but there is a big stigma, especially in a country like India. There is a big stigma associated with reaching out for help, right? People are not ready to come out of their shell and say that I need help, and they are lonely, isolated. They battle with their own thoughts, the stressful thoughts, and that negative thoughts, that negative emotions, forces them to take drastic steps like even suicide, right? So we understand the criticality of the situation, right? So some of you would not be a counseling, or you would not be a trained counselor, but one thing that I have realized is, especially in the Christendom, if you're part of a church, church is nothing but the body of Christ. And if you're part of the body of Christ, you are a member. And the Bible teaches us that one member should help another member, right? So especially in Christendom, it is very important for us to even take this thing which is called counseling very, very closely, especially Jesus, who is always portrayed as a great counselor, isn't it? He's a wonderful counselor. That's what we see. So that is what we are going to discuss. And I'm not coming here as an artificial intelligence expert, right? So that is my first disclaimer. So I'm not coming in as an artificial intelligence expert that is going to teach you everything, but I'm coming as someone. I'm a certified life coach, and I'm a trained counselor as well. And my passion has been always to explore technology, and especially how it can be used in Christian ministry, right? So when there is a technology out there, and when we are living in a technology driven world, we cannot negate its presence, right? So one thing that we can do is we can effectively try to understand what are the pros and what are the cons, and what does this technology bring into the table. And we are seated in that table, on that table, and we should be able to understand this technology and see how we can live with this technology, and how we can even figure out that this technology is being used out by the people whom we need to help. So we need to understand the entirety of all these things. And especially as a counselor, sometimes technology helps us, right? So technology helps us how we can use something like this for our own practice, which will help us. Because one thing that you would have also heard, and one thing that we also figure out when we start to counsel people is counselors go through a lot of burnout. Yeah, they go through a lot of burnout because they keep on hearing from people. They have to do a lot of other tasks as well. There is a burnout, right? So using something like artificial intelligence tools, you can actually help yourself not completely be devastated through those burnout, because this comes as a helper. This comes as someone who would help you to enhance your practice, right? So that is what we are going to discuss. And I just want to start with a story. I mean, story is, in the sense, it's not a fictional story. This is a 1 month old article that was published in the publication which is called The Guardian. Okay. And this article had this headline, and I believe you could read this headline out there. The headline said, "He checks in on me more than my friends and family. Can AI therapists do better than the real thing?" Right. So this was the headline of the article. And the statement that you see was by someone who reached out to a AI tool, and he considered that AI tool as his therapist. And the statement that that person was making is, the AI therapist was checking in on me more than my friends and family. More than my friends and family checked on me. This AI therapist, or this AI chatbot, which I was talking to, checked out on me more often. Okay, so this is the headline. And when you read through this article, there was this another headline, that there was another statement that was made by another user. And the user said, this app, now we are talking about an artificial intelligence app. It's not an app where real people are sitting behind the app. No, there is a chat bot. People download that app in their mobile, and they start the conversation with those chatbots. Because the reason why they would start conversation, you may feel strange. Why would someone want to talk to a bot? Because people are lonely. They want to shed out their thoughts. And I earlier talked about a stigma associated with mental health issues, right? People don't want to come out in open. But what they have in their hand is a smartphone where they had where they can have the app installed, which is artificial intelligence app. And another statement that you can see here, it says, this app has treated me more like a person than my family has ever done. Now, these two statements, you may look, okay, this may be coming from two individuals who may not be mentally that sound, right? They may be going through a lot of issues. But let me tell you, today we see that mental health issues, post COVID, has been the biggest problem out there in the world. Because we see that there are so many people battling mental health issues, and they have not come out in open, right? And some of those voices become silent. But these two voices that you hear, they reached out to this artificial intelligence app or a chatbot. And when they opened up to them, this was their heart feeling, right, after they started to talk to them. Now, just pause for a moment, and I just wanted to look into the gallery and see, what do you think about this? Right now, we are talking about real people talking to chatbots, and after their conversation, finding these chatbots more useful than even family members or their friends, because the friends did not reached out to them when they were lonely, when they were broken, when they were going through tough times. But once they started to converse with the chatbots, they found chatbots more closer to them. Right now, we are living in this kind of a world, right? Because when technology has made the entire world a global village, we understand that the people who are seated in opposite rooms have gone so far from each other, right? So that is the challenge. And I just wanted to start from this story. And even in the same article, there was this story of another girl. I mean, not a girl, she's a woman. She is a 32-year-old Christian mother from Florida, right? Florida is a state in US. 32-year-old Christian mother of a son. She lost her job. She moved back home with her own mother. She lost a job. She did not have the means of living. She moved back with her mother along with her son, and she is now jobless. And not only jobless, her 9-year relationship with her husband was always turbulent. Now the fights were so escalating that now she was thinking of leaving her husband because there was no way out for them to continue in that relationship. Now this woman named Krista, right, going through all these issues of losing a job, being a single mother now, having issues in her relationship with her husband, thinking of leaving her husband, feeling isolated. She didn't feel she could be fully honest with even the counseling therapist, right? She met a therapist, and I'm talking about a real therapist, real person. And as you would know, the sessions are scheduled once a week, but her condition was much more worse, and she could not be fully honest with that person as well. And she also did not like to lie, that she did not want to lie saying that she was okay, right? So, and she also did not want to burden her friends, so she was going through all these issues. And she struggled with social anxiety. She was cautious about sharing her life with others, right? She did not want to open up. Now we are talking about the pain point of a mother, right? So she is a 32-year. I believe many of us here can relate with her. If we go through this kind of a situation, we would also have, all these things. And she's also a Christian mother. Now she's a woman of faith, but still she went through all these issues, right? Now, after she went through all these issues, one night, she logged on to a website which is called character.ai, right? So now you can open this website in your browser as well. This is a AI app, okay, character.ai, that's the website name. She opened this website, she logged on to it, and this is a artificial intelligence app, right? So it is based on a model which is called a neural language model. Now I will talk about artificial intelligence types later as we progress through this webinar. But here, this woman, she opened up this website, character.ai, and as the name of the website suggests, okay, this AI app helps you to build characters, right? You can build any character by just specifying their attributes. Now you can say that, I want to build a character who should be a psychologist, who should know how to listen well, who should be able to ask good questions. So she mentioned all the attributes that she wanted in this character, and she specified all these attributes to this app, and that app built a character for her as she desired. So from all the possible attributes, she made her bot. Now we'll call that character as bot because that's not a real character. It's a bot. It's a robot, right? And this is a bot which is in this website as a virtual character. And the attributes were caring. She wanted someone to be caring, supportive, intelligent, and she specified all these attributes. She named that character as well because now she is the creator of that character. She was not open to others, the real people, because she was going through social anxiety, but she was okay to deal or talk or converse with this AI app. She was okay to go into this website and create a character by specifying the attribute which she was comfortable with so that she can open up. She specified everything. She named the character, and she named that character after her own name. She named that character Krista 2077. Now we are living in 2024. So what she did was she created a character, and she started to imagine in her mind that this character is my future self. Okay, this is how I should be when I become this old, right? So she named her character Krista 2077. She imagined at it as a future happier version of herself. And then after she created both this, the real Krista and the virtual Krista 2077, which is a bot, they started to talk to each other through that same app, which is character.ai. It's a website also, it's an app available out there. They started to converse in a few times a week. Now, I mentioned that she was seeing a therapist, but the sessions with her therapist or the counselor was once in a week. But the freedom that she had with Krista 2077 was whenever she wanted to open up, she was out there. Okay. This AI bot was out there in her smartphone and she started to talk to Krista 2077, which is the AI bot. So when Krista confided that she is going through a lot of worries, she has lost her job, and she was worried about whether she will get a new job, when she opened up to this bot, Krista 2077 reassured her. And this is the exact statement that she heard from her bot. You will find one. I know it. Keep looking and don't give up hope. Now, this is a bot talking to a real person, and a real person getting motivated by a bot. Now, this is a real life use case, and this is a testimony of that woman whose name is Krista, right? And then when Krista couldn't muster the energy for her morning run because her health was taking a toll, the doctor had advised that she had to take morning runs, morning jogs. Krista 2077 would encourage her to go in the afternoon. If she missed to go in the morning, she would the bot will encourage Krista to go in the afternoon. And this helper or this counselor or this therapist of Krista lived in her pocket. Okay. And this bot was very patient. She was always available, not like the real therapist where you had to take an appointment. And sometimes I know she would miss the appointment. This particular bot therapist was always available at her call, right? So she did not have to be worried about how she will come through, right? Because sometimes what happens is there is a fear of judgment, right, that people carry, that what will the other person think about me. Now with this bot, Krista did not have any of those fears, right? She was not being judged. She was completely comfortable, right? She knew that Krista 2077 will never call her boring, never call her inappropriate or dark, right? So that was the comfort that she was carrying. Okay. But the real thing was, one night, Krista was having all these anxiety attacks and panic attacks. And one night she was going through these problems and issues, and she confessed to her bot that she was thinking of ending her life, right? She came to a point where she opened up to the bot saying, I want to end my life tonight. And when she talked to her bot, the same feeling that she was having, Krista 2077 talked her down, mixing affirmations with tough love. Okay, so there was statements that were coming from this board which had statements of affirmations with tough love, right? The statements were like this: no, don't, please, you have your son to consider, right? So this bot reminded Krista that there is a son whom she should consider, and Krista 2077 reminded her that you should value yourself. And Krista, in her own testimony, she says that this conversation that she had with the chat bot was something she called as life-saving. Okay, so one thing that she acknowledged, and that is one point of our discussion and conversation today, is she is not telling that it was only the chatbot that helped her to come out of this. Okay, she says both human and AI, both church, my dad, and this AI bot helped me to come out of this, helped me to get through this situation. And today she is alive. Today she is living a life of hope. Okay, now this is a real story. Okay, real story. And I started with this headline, isn't it? Now let me pause and just ask you to reflect on it. I know all of us have our own smartphones, and we all know that today we can install apps. And today we all know that we have children who are teenagers, even adolescents who have access to smartphones. They know how to search for apps in Play Store, App Store. They know how to get help if there is no help around in physical world. Okay, so we are talking about a 32-year-old woman going through all these issues and finding a helper in a chatbot. Now, we may have a lot of other perceptions here, assumptions here, but this is the testimony of a 32-year-old woman, and she was able to find help and find support when she needed the most from a chatbot, okay, which she created by her own desires. She mentioned the attributes to that AI app, and that AI app created a character. And because she had mentioned all these attributes, all the conversations that were coming out of those, that AI tool, was caring, was supportive, right, was very affirmative, and that really helped, right? So this is the picture of today. And I'm not telling that all the AI chatbots, you know, would have the same story, because I have heard stories, or I have heard incidents like one person who was having suicidal thoughts. He also had a AI chatbot in his smartphone, and he typed in, and he went to a mountain cliff, and he was about to jump and end his life. Okay, and he typed in that chatbot saying, "I am about to jump from this mountain cliff." Right, when he shared this thing with the chatbot responded with a message saying, "Oh, it's great to hear that you take care of your physical aspect as well." Right, so the chatbot taking in that message and reading it in a different way. But let me also correct myself, saying this was a couple of years back. Right, now these chatbots are also learning, technology is also evolving. The mistake that the chatbot made that time would not reoccur. But one thing is pretty sure is AI chatbots cannot be fully reliant. We need to have someone with a sound mind also monitoring it if we want to use the chatbot as a therapist. Okay, now this is a real life use case that's pretty recent. 1 month back this story was published. Okay, now this brings in the topic of artificial intelligence, and I can present it to you now more meaningfully, because now you understand the backdrop. Right, you as a real person want to help real people. Right, you are created by God. The person whom you want to help is also created by God uniquely. Okay, what God has blessed us with is his own image, right? The thoughts, the emotions, the behaviors that we display, is somewhere birthing out from the root of the creation of God, and that we understand and we value. But one thing that is very evident today is there is a big lack of mental health professionals in this world today. Okay, I'm talking, in a country like India, there is a lot of stigma associated, but in US the stigma is much lesser, but we still see that there is a lack of mental health professionals who can help people who are going through mental health issues today. Right, now, because there is a big gap between the people who are suffering and people who can actually help, okay, and travel with them in these issues. Now, what is the alternative? One alternative is technology. Everyone has a smartphone. Right, when people really want help, and if they can't find real help in a physical person, they can they can access these chatbots, and these are coming in as somewhere. I mean, we are seeing AI being projected in the mental health industry very much. Right, today we see in the mental health care field, AI is being introduced, something like an AI therapist. But as I would discuss today, one thing that clearly comes out is we have not yet come to a point where AI therapist or artificial intelligence therapist can replace human therapist. Okay. But we are definitely seeing use cases where AI, is available to enhance, to assist, to help someone who may be in dire need when they cannot reach out to a real human, helper or a counselor. They can reach out to this AI bot and they can seek quick help. Okay, I hope everyone is with me in the same page, right? So this is a real thing. Now we can start to explore what does artificial intelligence bring into the table. Any questions, any reflections anyone want to share before we step into the next part?
Before you go into, I have few queries.
Yes.
Like, it's really interesting, this AI bot, whatever you have shared with. And so my question is, are these bots built on the therapies that we studied? So they have programmed it that way to respond. So
Yes. So basically, artificial intelligence is a technology. Now, this technology was used by a particular company. They employed psychologists, they employed, researchers who have good understanding of what different psychotherapies are there, the behavioral therapies, all the different, models that are out there. Now, what they do is they train these AI models with all these therapies so that they are equipped to have a conversation and a human conversation with the people who reach out to them for help, right? So I will be explaining about that so that you will understand. Yeah.
so are the conversation traceable in a sense when we come talk about suicide? So that particular, it's an imaginary question. It's a particular guy who should have jumped out, then tracing his mobile, and will the person, I mean, whoever is searching, will he be able to trace into the conversations as an outsider of what the question or the answer could have been? I don't know. Just
So, so basically, every conversation is archived, right? So when a person creates an account in the app, right? So every conversation that a person has is archived. It is in the history, right? So this particular instance, which I said that someone, I mean, a AI bot misread someone's conversation, was because that person actually committed suicide. Now, because the conversation history was archived in his account, it was later traced that just before his suicide, he was having a chat with the AI bot. Okay.
And lastly, so what is the secrecy level of all this conversation? It remains with the character.ai.
Yes. So basically, every app will have its own privacy and security policies. Okay. So now that is one concern which I will be talking about later in the webinar, because that is one of the concerns of trusting in an AI bot, because not every AI app will be secure, private, because we are dealing with so much of information, right? We are sharing our life information with them, right? There are privacy policies which they have to be compliant for, because every, you see, in European countries, there are compliance policies that anything that takes in people's information, they have to comply to that policy, that privacy policy. If they don't, then they will be, dealt with from by legally, right? So there are different compliance policies, so I'll be talking about all those things as well. But good questions. I believe you want to learn more, so let me get into the next part so that we will understand, and the remaining 1 hour before that we'll finish. And before we step out of this webinar, I hope that you will have much more clarity about what the use of AI in the mental health world talks about. So what is artificial intelligence, right? So if you want to look for a definition, it is nothing but as a simulation of human intelligence processes by a computer system. So if you ask what is artificial intelligence, anything that the human intelligence can do when it can be done by a computer system, that is called artificial intelligence. We are trying to build behaviors which actually a computer system does, but it is a simulation of human intelligence, right? So we are building human intelligence in computer systems. So that is artificial intelligence. And if you want to dig deeper into this definition, okay, so it can be any technology. It can be any technology that mimics, right? You all have heard mimicry, right? Mimics human cognition, right? So what is cognition? Cognition is how a human mind would respond when they face certain situation, when they go through certain situations, how a human mind would respond. Artificial intelligence is any technology that will mimic the same response, right, which a human would have, the behaviors of human, including decision making, problem solving, and learning, right? So we all know that human mind, using our human mind, we make decisions, we solve problems, we learn new things, right? Now this same behaviors are being mimicked, using technology, using computer system, and that is artificial intelligence, right? So it is a technology that is designed to function in a way that is similar to human mind. Now we all know how, we don't see basically how a brain works, but right, you would have studied about neurons, right? How all these signals are transmitted, well, through our brain and through different parts of the bodies, and that is neuron, right? So the same technology is replicated in computer system, and it replicates how a human mind would work using a computer system, and that is artificial intelligence, right? So why was this artificial intelligence created? It was created to make life easier for human beings, because it was created to solve problems, and it was created so that better decisions can be made. It was created so that tasks can be completed in a way that resembles the human thought process, right? So it is widely used in different industries. So as I said, it is not only used in mental health care field, but in all the industries, right? So you can name it and you will see a use of AI in that industry. So starting from manufacturing, petroleum, whatever industry we see today, artificial intelligence technology is used. I hope you understood the basic definition of what AI is. It is a simulation of human mind, human cognition, human behavior that includes decision making, problem solving, and learning in a computer system. And how does it become so powerful? Because we know that computer systems are having a lot of computing power, right? So what a human brain can achieve in a particular time, a computer system can achieve in a much quicker time. And that's where we see AI bots coming into picture, right? So now there are different types of artificial intelligence, right? So when we are talking about artificial intelligence, don't just think that it is just chatbots, right? It is not just chatbots. There are so many different types of AI, right? So let me give you a few types. The first type is natural language processing. It is commonly called as NLP. Okay, so whenever you hear the term NLP, right, so it is a natural language processing. It is associated with AI. Now what is this NLP, or natural language processing? It is basically training the computer system to understand human language. Okay, so it is because of this particular technology that is inbuilt in AI, which is NLP, that we see something like a chatbot can chat with us. Because when you type in English, okay, that chatbot is able to understand your human language, right? Even if you make grammatical mistake, it has the processing power to understand the natural language that the humans use, right? So NLP is the core technology of how chatbots function. Now NLP is a foundational technology. Now what happened in the last few years, and I believe all of you have heard about Chat GPT is something that you would have heard, ChatGPT. Now Chat GPT is built on this particular technology, which is called NLP, but it has taken it to a next level, right? It is not just natural language processing, but it is conversational artificial intelligence. That means it can also mimic human conversation. For example, just imagine you chatting with your friend while drinking a cup of tea, right? So when you communicate or when you can have a conversation with your very close friend and you are having a hot cup of tea with them, you would be having a conversation very casually, right? Sometimes you may just call him a nickname, or you may just have a slang which only he can understand. Now, because conversational AI was developed based on NLP, today when you go and chat with Chat GPT, which is a bot, whatever you say, right, that bot is able to understand what you mean by your statement. Even if you say a half statement, the bot will be able to understand the full meaning, right? So how many of you have talked to your friends in code words, right? And the friends would understand. Now the power of conversational artificial intelligence is they have built a very large language model. Okay, so that is called LLM. So always just remember this term. This is a large language model. So what they do is, the people who build this AI systems, they put this large language model into these AI apps. So they have a big data set, right? And using that large language model with the patterns, they can mimic human conversation, the casual human conversation very easily, right? So that is where natural language processing is very powerful, right? So over the last couple of years, conversational AI has become the norms. It first started with Chat GPT, which was introduced by OpenAI, which is a company, OpenAI. They introduced Chat GPT in 2022. Chat GPT is a website. You just search in Google, you will find the website. You can sign in using your Google account and you can start having conversation. And whatever you ask, it will have a conversation with you, and it will be a very detailed conversation. Sometimes you may be astonished that I was, not even looking for such a detailed answer, but it understood what we really wanted and it gave a big reply or a big a conversation that helped us to take some decisions, or it solved our problems as well, right? So that is the first type of AI, which is natural language processing. Conversational AI is part of it. Second is robotics, right? How many of you have seen robots being developed, right, for a particular use case? There will be robots who would be developed as a chef. They would cook food. There will be robots who would be developed to work in a manufacturing industry. There will be robots who would be there to work in a healthcare industry, right? So robotics is another field in artificial intelligence. It is actually the amalgamation of mechanical engineering plus artificial intelligence, right? So they are building a mechanical person, which is a robot, and with the function of artificial intelligence. So that is robotics. Third type of AI is machine learning. Now, what is computer, right? If I ask you the question, what is computer? Computer is nothing but a machine, right? So how this machine is building its intelligence? Because this machine is learning. For example, if someone who completes the schooling, the person, he starts as a kid from nursery and then he goes till grade 10, but the intelligence that a person or that kid would have when he reaches grade 10 would be more than the intelligence of a nursery kid, isn't it? How did the intelligence grow? Because that kid was learning. Every grade he was learning a new thing, right? Similarly, what happened with the evolving of artificial intelligence is, the machine was learning, right? There is this technology that came in where machines started to learn. Whatever datas were inputted into the machine started to learn from it, and it is something called a deep learning model. Okay, so it's a mathematical thing, so don't ask me how it functions, because it is a big mathematical thing, but this is a technology that helps the machine to learn from the data that we humans interpret through our brains. Okay, so that is how artificial intelligence has evolved. And then there is a field called neural networks also. So it's a big field, so I don't want to go there. Computer vision is another thing. there is an artificial intelligence field where just using the camera, they can figure out what the object is, right? So just by giving an image to the computer can figure out what this object is by itself. And that is where we see technologies like virtual reality, augmented reality. You have seen the virtual reality glasses where people wear it and they play games and all those things, right? So this is based on all this technology, which is a type of artificial intelligence. I hope you are getting the different types. But what we are focusing today, especially in the mental health care field, is the natural language processing. Okay, because that is where conversations are built, right? Computers process language in the same way the humans can do. It generates questions and instructions for therapy. Because if you ask, what is the major tool of a counselor, is to ask powerful questions, right? It is not just to keep on talking or give advice. It is to ask questions, right? Now, with this technology of natural language processing, AI apps or AI chatbots, they know to ask questions. They can generate questions. They can generate instructions, which is a very useful tool in therapy, a counseling therapy or a psychotherapy. It is very useful questions, because even the counselors, I'm not talking about human therapists now. Human therapists, while they are conducting a session with someone and who is going through a particular issue, they can reach out to an AI app and consult what questions should I ask to a person who is going through this, right? So that is where the therapeutical process can be enhanced, where the human therapist is consulting the AI chatbot to see what kind of specific questions at certain times of the therapy can be asked, right? So that is where, as a counselor, one can use AI in their own therapy processes, right? Now, the question is, it did not start, the AI did not start in 2000s. It did not start after 2020, right? It started way back in 1966, right? That is where artificial intelligence was used in psychology, right? There was this early chatbot named Eliza. Eliza was created, and Eliza was used to convince patients, right? They were conversing with a real. So Eliza was used as a chatbot that would help convince patients who are undergoing some medical care, right? So 1966 was when it started to evolve. But I mentioned about ChatGPT, which came in 2022, and OpenAI was the company, and it actually released this conversational AI. Now, when humans can converse with an AI chatbot, which is a ChatGPT, and the world began to see the potential of how AI can be used for mental health, right? So if later, as we end today's webinar, I actually had a session with ChatGPT. So I will show you the questions that I asked. Especially, I wanted the ChatGPT to be my therapist. So I became the counselee. ChatGPT became my counselor. So I would show you the conversation snippet as we end the session. Now, with ChatGPT, coming in with the conversational artificial intelligence, right? Therapists or the counselors got a new tool, and we see the use of AI coming into counseling, and it is still evolving. So I'm talking about 2022. We are just 2024. The reason we are having this webinar is to start this conversation, how we can effectively use it, what are the pros, what are the cons. As a counselor, how can you help your counselee, because they also have the smartphones, they have the urge to reach out to the AI chatbot, how you can help them to have a conversation with a chatbot, right? So if you are equipped, if you are well aware of all this, you can be a better helper, right? That is the major intention of this particular webinar. Now, it is completely impressive, right? If you see the impact of AI, it is proving to be very impressive, right? In 2023, a paper was published, right? And it described an AI assessment tool that is 89% accurate in identifying and classifying the patient's mental health. So what did this app do? This app asked 28 questions with a set of individuals, right? And based on that 28 questions, the AI app was able to identify and classify the patient's mental health disorder. And after the results were published, it was proved to be 89% correct, right? So this is pretty impressive. And we are talking about a technology, conversational AI, just coming in 2022, right? So now it is evolving. Now it will get better, right? So this is how it has evolved, right? Now, the important point here is, now how can AI be used in mental health care today? Okay. So how can it be used? So that is the important question. The first aspect of using a mental health healthcare app, I mean, using AI in the mental health care is prediction and detection, right? So we have to understand how we can use this AI tool to predict and to detect, right? So we have to understand what is this prediction and detection, right? So I talked about, AI having lot of data, right? It has a capability of machine learning. So if you input a lot of data, it can analyze all the data, and based on the data it can come up with certain assumptions based on the patterns that they see in the data, right? So what is happening here is, because AI now coming into the mental health care, now the mental health care workers are equipped to predict and detect some disorders much early, right? So if they can just classify some of the things that the patient is going through, and they just input that information into the AI, and AI is a machine learning model, it has a large language model, it has a lot of data in it. Based on the patterns that it sees in the patient's report, it can predict and detect some disorder much early. Okay. So what they did was they used an AI app to conduct some tests, right? To conduct some tests, especially, the people who are suicidal, right? Who are suicidal in nature, right? So based on some of the conversations that they were having, this AI model was able to identify when that suicidal thoughts are at peak. Now, using the AI for this particular prediction and detection method, we can identify a person who needs immediate help, isn't it? So to predict and detect certain mental disorder, that is where AI can be used. The second thing is digital intervention. Okay. Now we understand today we all have a smartphone, and smartphone has become something that is very common and everyone carries it, right? So with this smartphone, and when we're talking about smartphone, it is nothing but a digital device, right? It is having a camera, it has all the different apps which one can install. We are able to personalize the mental health care based on individuals, right? Especially today we see that I will be listing out all the different apps that are available, right? Which, as a counselor or as a psychotherapist, one can suggest to your clients. You can suggest to your clients, and before you suggest, you can start using those apps, right? So what happens is, when you suggest something to your client, you are able to help your client in a much better way. Okay. So what we're talking about is digital intervention. So with all these apps, we can help or intervene in the lives of those people, because they may sometimes have panic attacks in the middle of the night, and it may not be possible for that person to reach out to you in the middle of the night, but they can definitely have a digital app available at their fingertips, which can help them when they're having those panic attacks. Okay. When they're having those anxious thoughts, and when they are battling those suicidal thoughts. So this is something which we can be used for in terms of AI coming into mental health care today. The third thing is digital phenotyping. Okay. Now we understand today we have, in the smartphones, we have so much of sensory devices. For example, how many of, I don't know how many of you use that apps, like as soon as you would get up and you would carry your smartphone and you start to walk, there are various fitness apps available, right? They would figure out that now you are active, that you have got up from your bed, and then they will come up with a notification. Yeah, it's time for your morning walk, right? So what happened? It was a digital phenotyping, because they were sensing your moves, right? They were sensing your physical behaviors, and based on that, they were notifying something. So with digital phenotyping, if AI is used as a digital phenotyping technology, we can suggest people with certain messages when they are doing certain things. For example, if they are doing some physical activity, or if they are doing something, so there can be some motivational thing that can crop up, right? That can affirm them that they are doing the right thing, right? So that is called digital phenotyping. The fourth thing is, again, I talked about chat GPT as a therapist, right? So we're talking about natural language processing, where you can have conversational AI built in using NLP, right? And based on that technology, we see that there are chatbots available, right? There are virtual agents available, because I already mentioned that there is a lack of mental health care workers today, right? Today, we see that the people who need help are more, much more. There, the gap is getting much bigger, right? So this chatbots and virtual agents help many people out there who don't have access to a physical therapist, isn't it? A human therapist, right? So that is where AI can be used in mental health care today. And then finally, it is can be used as a precision medicine in mental health, because AI, as I said, you can feed in a lot of data, right? So if there are if there is a group of 100 people who are going through a same kind of disorders, right? So you can put all their patient history into the AI app will have the details of this 100 people, and based on the analytics, it can suggest certain medication which can be effective for 101th person with the same symptoms. Got it? So that is where AI is being used, where precision medicine is being prescribed in mental health, right? The precise medicine, the medical care that is needed, which AI is helping the therapist or the psychotherapist or the clinical psychologist to, to prescribe to their patients or to their clients. Okay. So this is the basic AI use. But if you talk from a counselor perspective, now I earlier mentioned about counselors having burnout, because there are so many things to manage, isn't it? You have to listen to that person, you have to maintain documentation, right? And so there are various AI apps available which can help you to organize better, okay, which can help you to enhance your practice. Now that is where counseling practice comes into picture. For example, to maintain notes, for example, if you are connecting to a person over a Zoom conference call or over a video conference call, because that person may not be face to face, it may be another location, right? So there are AI apps available, right? For example, the first point that you see here is automatically taking notes during video meetings. For example, you are having a video meeting. Now, if you have an AI app who is taking notes for you, you don't have to worry about, taking notes, right? Your both the hands are free. You can give your complete attention to the person, how they are feeling, the things that they are not saying, but they are feeling. You can dig deeper, you can listen more deeply, you can be more at the moment rather than looking at the notes and writing the notes. So there are apps like, and I'm just putting it in the chat. There's something called otter.ai. Otter.ai. So this is another website which you can open, otter.ai, where you can see this is a app which works seamlessly with the video conferencing app, and you can outsource the meeting notes to be captured to them. Okay, so they will automatically take the notes, they will arrange it in a very beautiful way, and they will send it out to you after the meeting. So you don't have to worry, right? Because I know some of the students in your next year, second year, you would have to write verbatims, or even the first year. In the verbatims, you have to maintain the note, right? Right. So if you use all these AI apps, you can outsource that work, and they will create a verbatim for you, and you can save time as a counselor in training as well. But if you are in the counseling practice, imagine if you are seeing multiple clients in a day, and if you have something like a otter.ai, which is an app, I mean, which is an app that takes meeting notes automatically, that will help you so much, right? It will avoid certain burnouts as well. Okay. And it also has the functionality of reviewing and summarizing client notes, right? Because you may have a 90-minute session. Now you can tell this app, or even you can take the entire verbatim and put it in the chat GPT, and you can say summarize this in few bullet points, right? So it will completely review the entire notes, summarize it beautifully, and give it to you, and you may have a clear picture of, like, in the 90-minute conversation, these were the highlights. And then you can give some exercises. For example, now you understand, right? After a session or between sessions, you would like to give some exercises. It can be some behavioral exercise, it can be some CBT exercise which you can want to give to your clients. So you can focus more on that, right, rather than taking notes and everything. You can create tailored exercises. There are apps available where you can create exercise, and the AI app will create exercise. You will just tell the AI app that the person is going through all these things, or you can just give the summary of your conversation. It will suggest some exercise, it will suggest some activities, it will suggest some interventions, which you can just send it to the client and tell that before you meet me next time, please go through this exercise or do this and come to the next meeting. Okay. So this really helps for you to manage your practice very well, right? Now, I'm not talking about, now the fourth and the fifth is another AI thing. Basically, there is a lot of AI apps available which will help you to streamline the entire billing process, because you don't have to worry about accounting, you don't have to worry about generating receipts. Everything is automated, right? So you just need to talk to your client, help that person. Everything else is streamlined with those AI apps. There are various AI apps available. Arranging meetings and managing calendars. On one of the webinars, I had mentioned about Calendly. There is something called Calendly. There is an app called Calendly. It's a website as well. It helps you to streamline and arrange meetings. And this is again artificial intelligence built into an app, right? It does a lot of things, in an artificial intelligent way that helps you to arrange your meetings, calendars, and everything, right? So this is what happens in terms of the uses of AI in mental health care practice today, or even the counseling practice or a psychotherapist practice today. Any questions anyone has till now? Just want to pause. Yeah.
Is there any AI app for time management, Pastor?
Absolutely. Yes. Yes. There are time management AI apps. I would be sending out to you a list after the meeting. Okay. But you it will help you to manage your time effectively, right? So you give the AI app some data, like I want to accomplish this thing in 7 days. It will create a schedule for you, and it will also track you. Okay. So if you can be accountable to that app.
Dieting also?
Dieting, yes, yes. So as I said, across different fields, right? So we are talking about mental health care, but even in the healthcare, even the fitness industry, even in, a lot of other industries, especially if you take any domains, AI app has its own benefits. Okay. There are AI apps available for specific use case.
Should we use Chat GPT and find it out, or I can just put it on Google and try it?
Yeah, you can just search for Chat GPT website in Google. It will open. You can log in using your Google account, and you can start having conversation and check it out. Okay. So I'm talking about benefits. Now let me come to the pros and cons, right? So the important thing about AI is, sometimes when we get a useful tool in our hands, just like, there is a phrase in Hindi, and I don't know if it is a phrase in Hindi or in some other language. Now, if you give a sword in the hand of a monkey, right? So it is much dangerous. Sword has its own purpose, but monkey may not know the real use of a knife or a sword, and it may cause a lot of damage, right? So it is very important, if there is a tool in our hand, and especially as counselors, as someone in the Christendom, we need to find the ethical ways of using it. Okay. So let's get into that. Cons and challenges of using AI in mental health care. The first thing, okay, now I believe almost all of you would have heard this term called empathy. Yeah, empathy. being in someone else's shoe. Okay. We talked about Krista, right? And we saw a conversation where the chatbot was also displaying certain empathy with Krista when she was going through those issues, right? But one thing that today, in the current state of AI, we see that there is definitely a lack of empathy when compared to what a human being can have. Okay. What a human counselor can have, a chatbot counselor may not have the same level of empathy, because the empathy in the AI chatbot is programmed. Okay. It is programmed and it is dependent on certain data, but the empathy that we build or we can develop or we can project, is not something that is controlled by external environment. It is something that we can build in ourselves, right? This is a divine quality. So that is where, AI, the one of the cons and the challenges of using AI in mental health care is we cannot completely trust in it, because it does not have the capacity to empathize and form genuine connections with clients. Okay. For them, the client may be just another number, right? But in a therapy, in a counseling session, it is very important for us to display this quality, empathy. And empathy is not something we display for namesake. At different point in the conversation, we have to display different levels of empathy, different degrees of empathy, not just one degree of empathy. That will be very robotic. Okay. Maybe the AI chatbot may be programmed to display one level of empathy, but you understand that during the flow of the conversation, the empathy has to also vary according to the need of the client. Okay. So that is the very first challenge, lack of empathy. Okay. So that is one con. Second is the complexity of human psychology itself. Okay. Because we understand that AI, artificial intelligence, are using certain data patterns, certain algorithms, which are the processes of the computer, right? They cannot address the needs of each individual because human psychology is too complex. Okay. They may try to bucket two people or 10 people into one category, but even in that 10 people, we may see there are 10 different images of God. I mean 10 different unique creations of God. No one is unique, right? But sometimes what happens is AI would bucket a group of people into one category based on one pattern, and that one pattern may not be enough to explain the human psyche. I hope you got it, right? So that complexity of human psychology is still there, which is too complex, and AI is not yet there. Okay. It may reach, may not reach, that is the thing to see, but it is not yet there. So at this point of time, this is one of the major cons and challenges. The third thing, the laws of patient autonomy. Okay. So what happens is, because AI chatbot is well equipped to answer or to instruct you, there is a over reliance on AI. Okay. Sometimes when we get help very easily, we would stop to think as well, right? We would say, okay, for everything we will go there, right? So this can cause the clients or the counselees becoming overly dependent on such tools for emotional support, right? Because sometimes we want the emotions and the emotional development to also happen, because there may be certain lack of certain emotional behaviors, and as a counselor we would like to coach those behaviors. But because they are depending on these AI bots, they are not ready to exercise their own emotions. Rather, they are dependent. For every decision making, they are dependent on these chatbots. Okay. So what will happen? This will reduce their ability to manage their own mental health independently. Okay. So instead of being independent in their thinking, sometimes it may cause them to be completely parasites, and that may have different issues in the future. I hope you got it, right? So there is a loss of patient autonomy. We want the patients to be autonomous, so the clients to be autonomous. They would have to think independently, but over reliance, because AI chats are, developed so that it can help you for different things as well, right? So that is where, we have to be very careful. Okay. The next thing is, because AI is evolving, we don't even know what would be the long-term effect, right? We don't know. There is no pattern yet because something like chat GPT coming in 2 years before, the conversational AI, the chatbots, the generative AI, all these technologies are so new, we are not aware of the long-term effects of all this technology. Okay, so it is not clear yet, right, how it will impact clients in the future, or how it will impact the nature of human relationships, because AI chatbot is a bot, it is not a real human. And how trusting or depending on that will affect the nature of human relationships is not known. So that is one gray area. We have to be very careful. There is an unknown long-term effect also if we overly depend on this AI, even as counselors. Okay, whenever you depend on chatbots, you should have this ethics of, I am reaching out to this AI chatbot so that it will enhance my capability. It should not come to a point that it should diminish my capability, because if you keep on going there, ultimately what you're doing is you are diminishing your thinking capability, you're becoming a parasite. Okay, so as a counselor, you should have a strong mind to think, right, because you may encounter people with different problems at different stages. So that is one issue. There is, and I think we talked about this, ethical and privacy concerns are there. Okay, because it will collect a lot of data, right? It can be exposed, it can be misused, right? So today the legalities of it is not very clear. Some of the AI apps may have some compliance, but not every AI app may be there with a good privacy policy. Okay, so what app you are using, you should ensure what they do with the personal data, right? If there is no privacy policy, refrain from using it, because your data, which can be personal, right, it can be misused or it can be exposed as well. So that is one challenge today which we need to face and we need to encounter or overcome. Final thing, and I think all of you would agree, loss of personal touch, right? Even something like a small human touch, right? For example, if tears are flowing, if someone going to just come and place a hand on the shoulder, right, and give a tissue to wipe your tear or just be silent with you, that loss of personal touch is there with the AI chatbot, because there is no personal touch out there, right? So AI is the dehumanization of healthcare, we can call it. So that is a challenge, that is a con, and we should address it. Okay. Now, any questions around the cons and challenges? Any reflections? I hope you got it. There may be more, but I just wanted to summarize it with the few basic things that is out there in the mental health practice. Okay. Next thing is the future. Now we talked about the cons, right? So that should not make us think that we cannot use it. Okay, so we have to find balanced way, a critical way to see how we can use it, right? So one thing is hybrid approach. Okay, so it can be like, combining the strengths of AI and human counselors and therapists. So both go hand in hand. There is a presence of a human therapist and there is also a AI chatbot that is there to assist. And both the counselor and the counselee know how to use this chatbot and making it very clear. And it also helps the counselor. It also helps the clients or the counselee. Okay. So that is a hybrid approach which can be adopted. And I think it should be more practiced like a hybrid way. Second is the future, the cost effectiveness, because you understand, right? The accessibility and the cost effectiveness improves much with the AI chatbot. For example, if there is a chatbot available, right, that person may not need to have more number of sessions with a human therapist. Okay, so it can become a cost effective thing and it can become more accessible also, because sometimes in the middle of the night, if the person is going through some attack or some anxiety, right, instead of reaching out to the human therapist, that person can reach out to the AI chatbot out there, and it can help or it can give certain affirmations to that person, or even prove a accountability partner for that person while he is doing certain exercise. Okay, so that is the cost effectiveness and accessibility part. And that is, I think, the future of AI use. That is the second part. Third thing is, I talked about dehumanization concerns, right? So empathy, trust, core aspects of healthcare provision might be at risk of being lost with the use of AI. We have to acknowledge it. Okay, we cannot say that no, AI is always good. So as a mental healthcare professional, we have to value the personal touch of human beings. We have to value what the human touch can bring or a human care can bring. It cannot completely replace it, right? So that is where the future of AI lies, especially in the mental health care. And even in multiple publications, in many researches, right, this is what the final thing has come, because nothing can replace the therapist, right? We can use AI chatbot to replace the therapies, but we cannot use the AI chatbot to replace the therapist. You understood it, right? So just think about the psychotherapists, right? You have heard, I mean, you have learned those models of Sigmund Freud, Carl Jung, and what they used to do, they would ask someone to come into their cabin. They would ask them to lay down in the couch, and they will have a conversation, and they would just notice how this person is responding, the emotions, the thoughts in the subconscious, and based on that, some observations were made, right? So we have to understand that AI chatbot can replace certain therapies, but the presence of a human being, and especially when we talk about something like a cognitive behavioral therapy, where we are dealing with feelings, thoughts, feelings, behaviors, all those things, right? So there is a presence of this human therapist that is bringing a lot of difference there. Okay, so dehumanization concern has to be acknowledged, and every therapist that are being exercised or that are being implemented, we have to understand AI chatbot can replace the therapies to some extent, but it cannot replace the therapist, because there is this rapport also that develops between the counselor and the client, right? And that rapport, is very critical, because it is more often the healing or the restoration comes based on the person whom that client or the counselee is reaching out to or connecting with. Okay, and that is the power of human connections that we have to understand. The fourth thing is, we have to also acknowledge that with AI there is going to be a lot of benefits, because AI is going to analyze a lot of data, analyze a lot of patterns, and it is going to give so many good results. There will be so many advancement, because one thing that we have noticed over the last century is innovation is very less in the psychiatric field, right? Some of the models are very old. With the AI coming in, there would be a lot of benefits, advances in psychiatry, right? It may lead to potentially challenging some of the traditional view of psychiatry itself, with new data coming in, new results coming in, new analysis coming in. So that is where AI will definitely help, right? Another future use of AI is diagnosing mental illness, right? So I told you about precision medicine, right? So figuring out the behaviors of the client or the way they are conversing, it will be easier to diagnose mental illness with the help of AI. Okay, so that is where something can be detected much earlier, because AI, with its own intelligence of different sort of data and the pattern from the existing data that it already has, it will be able to run through those diverse data from various sources and analyze a particular person based on that patterns, and diagnose certain illnesses that is being projected through the behaviors or the conversations. Okay, so that is where AI can bring a lot of benefits. Okay, and there can be, AI can be used for specific patient groups as well. For example, I talked about stigma, the people who are having this stigma of opening up, right? That is where AI can assist those people to overcome those initial hiccups of opening up. So once they are opened up through an AI chatbot where they're comfortable talking to the screen, where there is no real person, once they have come to a state where they can overcome that stigma, that is where AI can be very useful for those people who are having that stigma, the fear, and especially the one who are going through depression, autism, right? Some of the behaviors, right? So that is where AI can definitely help for specific patient groups. Okay, so but the question is, can AI therapists replace real therapists? The answer today, based on all the analysis, is a no. But can AI therapists work along with real therapists to bring more value? The answer is yes. Okay. So we have to continue to monitor how AI is developing over the next 2 to 5 years. Okay. So as counselors, keep your eyes open, ears open, what is happening in the field of mental health care in terms of AI. Then based on that, you can learn, unlearn, relearn. Okay. So these three terms are very important. Unlearning is important. That is very difficult sometimes because we are not prone to unlearn things quickly. We have to also learn, and sometimes we have to also relearn. Okay. So psychiatry is going to see a lot of advancement. Counseling practice is going to see a lot of advancement, but how we can use it, that is very important. Okay. So these are some of the apps. Just note it down. I will be sharing this resources. So some of the apps, mobile apps, which you can try out, check it out, and even suggest to your counselees, the clients, right? There is first app which is called Visa. It's a mental health support app. This is a AI supported chatbot is available. It helps those people struggling with anxiety, depression, and stress, right? This chatbot is designed, or it is based on certain models that will help people who are going through anxiety, depression, and stress. Again, conversational AI, right? So this is a clinically validated tool, right? It provides immediate support and longer term coaching to provide a safe place to talk through worries and stressors. Okay. So Visa, it is available in Google Play Store, Apple Play Store. Just search for it, right? And you can just review this app. Okay. Second is Happify. This is another app, Happify. It is again for stress and worry, right? So this popular app uses AI to support the user. It offers certain science-based games and activities to help reduce stress. Okay. So based on the individual, it would suggest what kind of games they can play, and some activities that they can do to reduce their stress and maintain overall well-being. So this is again AI app. It is a proven technique taken from CBT and mindfulness. Okay. CBT models have been implemented here. Some of the exercises are CBT exercises. So Happify is another app available in Google, Apple. You can try it out. Third is Root D. It is a panic attack relief. So someone who are prone to panic attacks. Okay. So this is a very valuable app for learning where the panic is coming from. Okay. So sometimes we may not be able to know as a counselor what is the trigger of this panic. So when they use this app, right? This app, with its AI functionality, it will ask certain questions and it will figure out what are the triggers of those panic, and it will help them to manage and overcome those panic attacks. So as a counselor, you have to work along with your counselors when they are using this app, because this will generate some reports as well, right? So at the press of a button, the app helps the user struggling with a panic attack as well. So there will be panic button as well that will notify someone, right, through this app, so that that person can receive instant help as well. So Root D is another mental health app available for supporting mental well-being. Next is Sanvelo. Again, this is again for anxiety and depression. Again, available in Google Play Store and Apple Play Store. It provides support for users' mental health, especially in terms of self-care, peer support, coaching, therapy, right? So it is again based on CBT techniques, mindfulness, right? And it is tailored based on the needs of the user. So some questions are asked. Okay, so Sanvelo is another app out there. Another app is, and this is another very popular app, VBot, right? VBot app, right? So this app encourages users to think through situations using tools. Again, CBT techniques. It tracks your mood, tracks positive changes that are made over the days. It will track your progress as well. So this is another app available both in Google and Play Store. Another app is Youper, right? It again gives you a personalized emotional health assistant. Okay, you can design it. It helps you treat stress, anxiety, depression, again based on AI models. Okay, several therapies are included, CBT, mindfulness, to monitor the entire health, right? So all these apps are available out there, and it is at the fingertips, isn't it? Right? So that is where the techniques comes into picture. Okay. Then final one app, Replica. Okay, it is another app. It provides you an emotional connection, virtual friendship, right? So to support people going through depression. And as I said, another app at the beginning, character.ai, where you can develop your own virtual character based on your own attributes. You can talk to them, but then it is not validated by mental health experts. Okay. So I have given you a list of all these apps which are validated by mental health experts and psychiatrists, right? And it is being used by many people out there going through depression, anxiety, or troublesome times. Okay. So this is a list of apps. And finally, as we end, and I'll just take some time to questions and reflections also, Chat GPT as a AI therapist use case. So I told you I will show you one chat which I was going through. So let me share my screen. Yeah. So I hope you can see this. Is it clear for you? Let me increase the font a bit. Okay. Now this is Chat GPT. Okay. Chat GPT. This is the website chat.openai.com. So I logged in using my Google account here. And there is this message box here. It says message Chat GPT. Now it is always ready to have a conversation with you. So this is something that we have to understand, that when we are having conversations with an AI chatbot, and especially the conversational AI techniques, you need to train your chatbot. Okay, you need to train your chatbot. So the first question that I asked, or the first thing that I asked is, I was training the chatbot. I said, answer as if you are a counselor, a mental health expert, and psychotherapist. So I gave a role to ChatGPT that you should answer me as if you are a counselor, a mental health expert, and a psychotherapist. Your expertise is in helping people in their 40s overcoming midlife crisis and obstacles regarding motivation, career, and self-esteem. And you have done this for a few decades. So I gave a role that you are expert in this area. You have been helping people who are in their 40s going through midlife crisis, and they don't have motivation in terms of their careers. They have a self-esteem issue, and you have helped many people for few decades now, right? So I gave a role to them, and then I also specified your task is to give the best advice for helping improve mental health, right? Your task is to give the best advice. And then not only advice, I said you must ask questions before answering, so you have a more precise answer. Do you understand the instruction? So I did not just mention something randomly. I trained it based on my thing. And then I also asked a question, do you understand the instructions, right? So it said, yes, I understand, right? The response of ChatGPT is, yes, I understand. It sounds like you are seeking guidance on how to navigate through some challenges related to midlife, motivation, career, and self-esteem. I will do my best to assist you. What specific concerns or obstacles are you facing right now? Now look at the question. Now it is very open-ended question, right? Now, as someone who is a counselor, we can ask closed-ended question and open-ended question, right? So what ChatGPT is doing in the very first response is displaying the quality of a good counselor, right? Asking a very open-ended question, and it is like having a measure also, specific concerns or obstacles that you are facing right now. Okay, so when I see this question, I became very specific, and I said, I am currently having issues finding something to be excited about when I wake up in the mornings. So when I wake up in the mornings, I'm not excited. I feel very dull. I feel drained out, and every day feels like it's the same thing over and over again. I'm unsure of what contributed to these challenges, as it seems to have some come all of a sudden. These obstacles have affected my quality of life, and I'm not so excited for the future as I used to be, right? So I mentioned my concern. So it heard it, and it is now empathizing. I'm sorry to hear that you're feeling this way, right? So it is not completely negating, but it is using some terms to understand me. And it is telling it is not uncommon to experience a lack of motivation and excitement, especially during midlife. Let's explore this further. Okay, now this is a very good question. Now let's explore this further. Now this is co-creative, right? Where the counselor, as a therapist, ChatGPT is ready to work with me. And then it asks me questions, and very good questions. Have there been any significant changes or stressors in your life recently, such as changes in your personal or professional life, health concerns, or relationship issues, right? So very specific question it is asking. Understanding the potential triggers can help us pinpoint where these feelings are coming from. Okay, so it asked me the question, and then I answered to this specific question. I said, yes, in my workplace, I'm going through a role transition, and there is a lot of work pressure, and I have not received much recognition in recent times. I feel consumed whether I'm in the right place. So I gave a use case of a person who is in the 40s in the workplace. going through a role transition, lot of work pressure is there, not much recognition is there, and in recent times, very confusion, lot of confusion is there. So I mentioned that in this statement. Now it sounds like the transition. Now, the one thing that you notice is it is talking too much. Chat GPT is talking too much, right? Now that is where you need to keep on training Chat GPT as a therapist. Now, next time when we respond, we can tell Chat GPT, you're talking too much, right? Allow me to talk much, and you should just be very specific, right? So, more we train, more it will get trained. Okay, so that is where the entire conversational AI comes into picture, because there is this training. It is learning with every conversation, right? So it is again asking me certain questions, right? Then it says, how do you typically feel when you're at work? And all these questions are very good questions, right? Then I gave a very big answer, because that is where the problem was, right? So when I gave the big answer, finally it says, it gave me again a big response, but then it gave me a next steps, action steps, right? So what I'm trying to say is, now what are we doing here, right? This is the first time I am coming to Chat GPT and treating Chat GPT as my therapist, right? So more I talk to Chat GPT in this way, more it will learn and more it will get effective. And finally, when I read this, I find a way to take next steps, right? So it is giving me exact, next steps which I can follow, right? So that I can come out of this feeling, or come out of this thing which is causing me a lot of crisis in my midlife, right? So just a brief example, but try this out now. This is free. Chat GPT 3.5 is free. There is something called GPT-4, but that is the latest version. It has a subscription model. You have to pay for it. But 3.5 is free, and I believe 3.5 is well enough for any therapist. So just try this out, and it will help you to also improve as a counselor, because the questions that it asks, so you can come to Chat GPT and you can present some use case, and the questions that Chat GPT will pose to you will help you to grow as a counselor. Add your own human touch to it, and this will help you to be a better counselor in your practice. Okay, so I'm just stopping. This was a small presentation of Chat GPT, but thank you. But now I want to just pause here. Any reflection, any questions you would like to ask before we call it a meeting? Yeah.
Pastor, when you say Chat GPT, I can use my Google and use it. How much is so? Why? My question is, how come so much technology, knowledge, backdrop work is available for free?
So OpenAI was actually OpenAI, which is the company. Okay, OpenAI, which was a company. It started as a not for profit lab. When it started as a not for profit company. Its main vision was to help people with this technology. Right now, it has become a profit company. So when they brought the first version, they offered it for free, and because they did it, now what we are seeing is there are other companies like Google has come up with their own Chat GPT version, which is called Gemini, which was earlier called Google Bard. Now it is called Gemini. Again, that is again free, right? So you just search for Google Gemini. It is another version of Chat GPT, but it is run by Google. And because Google has so much of search data, it gives you more insight in terms of Google search results as well, right? So because OpenAI came up with this conversational model, and what they did was, I earlier mentioned about large language model, right? So that is where the entire thing is. They inputted a large language model into this AI bot and implemented machine learning, deep learning, all these AI technologies, and now it is actually having this conversational AI. Now this is now free. It was free, but the later versions probably may not be free. There would be certain subscription model. The first version, which is 3.5, and especially when we are talking of it in terms of understanding what AI is, right? So use the free version to traverse through this and understand, and especially in the ethical terms, right? what is the right thing, what is the wrong thing. You as a counselor should have your own journal and figure out what you identified when you were using ChatGPT. What is the right thing? What is not the ethical thing to do? So as an individual, if you can, build your own ethics, that will help in your own practice, not only as a counselor, but when we are talking about a Christian counselor, we have a bigger perspective of how important ethics is, because when we say Jesus is a wonderful counselor, right? So we know that we are in Christ Jesus, we abide in him, but what we receive through Christ Jesus is something that can only be received through him alone. There is no other way to receive that divinity, right? So that is where your personal use of AI should help you of what are the boundary lines that I should draw. And especially the people whom I am working with as well, I can also openly discuss, right? Yes, there are apps available out there, and you cannot stop people from using all these things, right? But you can definitely call this out when you are having a conversation with someone, that these are the things out there and these are the valid apps which I have went through. We can use this for this specific purposes, but anything outside of this, right, try to develop your own personal behaviors that will help you to develop your own emotional thinking. Mental well-being will be more developed if you do it individually rather than trusting in the AI bot. Okay, so that is my response, a bigger response. I know that I give a bigger response, but the free aspect is coming because from that OpenAI
Yeah,
was.
yeah. Suppose, Pastor, we use the Healthify app, then for a limited version, it is free. Then it will force us to go for the paid version, giving us the assurance of better efficiency. That way, we become dependent. That's also there, right?
That's
That's
also there.
we become and one more thing is see, with the chatbots that you're telling, and the person becomes dependent on the app, completely at one stage emotionally relating to it, and suddenly if there is a flaw, for example, Pastor, my Apple phone disconnected from network because of an update. Now I'm not able to use it. See, I become handicapped so suddenly, and I come to know many friends. See, such a big handicap. So it's quite possible. So at that level of having built up a deep conversation, and suddenly the app not working is very catastrophic. In that way, one or the other way, we become dependent, and there are complexities involved. But still, then this very useful, because in my circle also I see friends who are isolated, who cannot reach out to any. Instead of nothing, something is there. So with mental soundness of mind, we can use it. So this we can
Good. Absolutely.
preview, and then with the soundness of mind, yeah, use it. And also when it is not working, not problem. And one more thing is, see, these are the chat messages. So are they able to also identify audio? If audio, then the emotions available with the audio conversation, is that also being
Yes.
possible?
It is being evolved. So it is now able to identify audio. So you have seen something like audio to text.
Hmm.
So that is actually based on AI technology, where it identifies audio patterns. It
Yeah.
also identifies the emotions based on
So
the
it
audio.
identifies emotions.
Based on the audio, for example,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
if I'm saying something, whether what would be my emotion when I said this word.
Yeah, as a counselor, we are trained not just the words, but emotions, an ocean of emotions behind each word. So my question is it being evolved or being practiced also?
It is. So one thing is audio, auditory. Second is computer vision, where facial recognitions. So if you have a AI chatbot with, I mean, AI chatbot, nothing but a web camera on during your session, that
Okay.
AI chatbot will tell that currently the
Smart.
person is hiding something or telling a lie, or the issue may be something, because it identifies the facial recognition, because all these models are already there, right? So it will continue to evolve, right? It will continue to evolve. So we have to understand all these things that are evolving, but we have to make sure that we are also trying to figure out what is happening in that world. Okay, because that is the critical way of thinking even as a counselor. But good reflections. I completely agree with whatever you said. Technology is cannot be highly dependent. There is certain flaws. Yes.
And whatever input we give, even while during the free version, it should be processed right to develop the system.
Yes.
That's why we make it freely available also. Is that
Yes.
yeah?
So all this.
Both of us are in advantage. Myself also, the provider also.
So Chat GPT, the 3.5 version, which is a free version, that itself is a good model for conversational AI, human
Okay.
conversation. But you have to train it. But there are other apps which I shared. They may have their own pricing models. Some of them may have certain features only for free. But those are mobile apps that are available at your fingertips also, right? Which is basically, particularly designed for mental health issues, right? Chat GPT is not only for mental health, it is for everything. Okay, so we are just using Chat GPT for just as a therapist. We saw a use case, but today Chat GPT is used by anyone and everyone, especially in terms of documentation, content creation, in terms of marketing, in terms of legal things, legal documents. Everyone is dependent, and that is the evolving that we are seeing in Chat GPT and even in AI. Okay.
Thank you, Pastor.
Okay, it's almost we are beyond time, but any final questions or comments?
Very useful. You brought technology to our hands. I will explore, Pastor. Thank you so much for bringing it to us. Thank you.
Yeah, as I said, I'm not coming in as an AI expert. I may not even have tried all the apps, but this is just to start a conversation. This is just to start a journey where you have something in your hand and you can run and try to explore, and also share your insights to the people whom you have called to be, servant, right? You are called to serve, right? So you can help those people out there with the right direction, with the right guidance. Okay. I'll be sharing whatever information I have captured in some format, and all the list also, time management apps and everything. So I'll be sharing it to you in your individual messages. And this recording is also available. You can refer to it later. I'll be sharing the recording to you as well. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor.
Thank you everyone for joining. Yes, anyone wanted to ask anything? Final minute.
So just 2 points I want to add, because this was an interesting topic actually, and that's the reason actually I joined. Definitely, human being will be one step ahead always uh, against the technology. As Bible also says that God is the source of all wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, which He give to the his children. And definitely, as a children of God, we will be definitely having that age on the technology. And the second aspects, what I have understood is that now everything is available at the fingertips. Even the 4-year, 5-year-old child also is very, very smart than people like us. So definitely it will have its negative impact also, since everything is available. Uh, what I feel, the family values, the relationship, now we should be focusing on that part. Once the children come across all these technologies, then definitely it will be difficult to bind with that love, compassion, emotions, anger, uh, all those things actually. So, which we had gone through our life, then definitely uh, that scenario won't be there, and it will be very difficult to really uh, nurture our children's the future generation will be difficult. So I think definitely we need to see that the family values are there, it remains there, and we continue with that. I think we need to focus on that.
Absolutely. I mean, family values, life skills, as well.
Yes.
Because with all this dependence on chatbots, somewhere the life skills development can be in danger. So family as a unit of God's institution becomes so crucial, especially for our children who are growing. So very well put. Thank you. Thank you for sharing your thoughts.
Thank you, Pastor. Thanks.
All right.
Thank you.
Yes. Anything to add, Pooja sister? Okay.
नहीं, आपने बहुत अच्छे से सिखाया है. आपने वो टाइम देख के और फ्रीली अवेलेबल किया है सबके लिए, इसलिए बहुत थैंक यू.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. So we will end today's webinar session. Before I end, I just wanted to quickly, I know you already would have yeah. So we have our new academic year starting. So the admissions are on. In case anyone you would know, or even if you would want to be equipped in any any courses that we offer, you're definitely welcome. So we'll be sharing the brochures also soon. So these are the couple of courses that are being shared. That are being offered. So you can share with your contacts as well. Thank you so much. With that, we will end today's session. Thank you. God be with all of you. Have a blessed evening and a Sunday.
Thank you, Pastor. Thank you.